Thank you. Hello, everyone. Anyorodu. Ara sire, ara kare now. So, yakuku sibaga ya ne. Ama je makareche diavana. A lot of people would ask me, and I think about 4 people asked me today, "Are you a Bira?" Yes, I'm proudly a Bira. You know, yeah. I'm going to tell you. I wish I could tell a lot of story, but I'll try to tell one due to time constraint. For me, being more is not accepting less. And being more is inside of each and every one of us. I've tried to accomplish a little in my lifetime, and just reflecting while listening to all the amazing speakers, I thought also to change my presentation and not to use slide and just talk from my heart, since I'm speaking to my kings, men and women. In 2012, I decided to take a risk that has changed the dynamics of my career. In 2019, I practically won about 10 global awards. It just kept coming back to back. But everything did not 19. It was actually backdated in 2012 when I took a risk and traveled over 18 hours to a community called Bagega in Zamfara State. At that time, a lot of people thought I was from northern Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria, and yeah, politically speaking, you would call Kogi North. But people thought I was from Core North, and I was able to amplify the voices of over 1,500 kids, got over $1 billion released by government just to get them healthcare delivery. But for me, being more was replicating myself in other people. And I would like to tell a few stories about my colleagues. I'll start with Fatima Musa. Fatima Musa is a young lady that is just 26 years old. In 2016, I joined her for a campaign in Kano State. We had traveled for about 7 hours. Getting to this community, we found that one, they don't have a primary health care center. Community members have to travel over 200 kilometers just to get access to health care. And what Fatima did was to use her smartphone to document the voices of these women and how the fact that they don't have a PHC is contributing to early child marriage and maternal mortality. Today, this community has state-of-the-art primary health care. Again, my journey have taken me across the 36 states of Nigeria, and that's why I always say I'm proudly Nigerian. But in not accepting the fact that I can't be more than this, I just thought, for me, it's important to even conquer Africa. In 2017, I was invited by the United States Department to train young people from West Africa in Ghana. So they brought a lot of young people in Ghana. My role was to teach them on how to use technology to do offline and online campaign for social cause. I met a young man called Ma Nyang. Ma was from the Gambia, and at that time he was worried that for 20 years, Yahya Jammeh has ruled his country, and now they needed a political transition. So I led a session called We Participate. I wanted to galvanize young people to participate, to get a voter's card and come out to vote. And then Ma came to me after my session and said he wanted to innovate and call it Gambia Participate, because this comes closer to home for him. We worked closely with Ma and got Yahya Jammeh out of office and got Adama Barrow democratically elected into office. And then Ma came back and said, in Be More, Hamza, what next? And I told him, right now, Adama Barrow is enjoying global support with millions of dollars. The next thing for you to do is to follow the money. And in 2019, we launched the first ever Follow the Money chapter in the Gambia, where they have over 1,000 people currently advocating and tracking public resources. When I was in Bonn, Germany in May 2019, where I was scheduled to collect a United Nations SDG award. I met a young lady. I met a young lady from Southern Africa who was also a recipient of one of the categories. And for her, she wanted to get young people to access healthcare that are living with HIV and AIDS. Over time, millions of dollars have gone into HIV and AIDS, but yet young people cannot get cares that are needed. And for us, we started first to document how much money, just to understand how much money has gone into HIV and AIDS in her home country, which is Malawi. And together, we were able to just make citizens understand, one, the importance of HIV and AIDS and getting retroviral drugs, and why it's important for young people to add their voice, even if you're living or you're not living with HIV and AIDS. We're now in the era of COVID-19, and of course, we all know that billions of dollars have already gone into this global pandemic. And just reflecting, listening to speakers, I just told myself, what next? I've been doing this, by the way, for 8 years. And in being more, and in replicating myself in other people, this pandemic also taught me something very unique. In the middle of the pandemic, I got a DM on Twitter. And this is why you should take social media very serious as young people. Because I see a lot of us get carried away with the bars and the bows. So I got a DM from an organization based in the US, but they work in Africa. And they were organizing a retreat. And because of the pandemic, it was going to be a virtual retreat. And they needed me to come and speak, just like I'm speaking to you guys, for 1 hour, 30 minutes. So I was meant to speak for 1 hour and then open the floor for Q&A. So when they sent me the DM, I just sent them my email address. Because yes, Twitter is a bit official, but I like to keep record. So they sent me an email asking me to be the keynote speaker. And honestly speaking, at that time I thought, okay, 1 hour, 30 minutes. All I needed was lighting in my room because we're all at home and good internet connectivity. But they asked me, how much are you going to charge us for this? I think with all our knowledge and our skills and our experiences, because a lot of time as young people, opportunities, being more is being able to understand that what is in front of you is an opportunity. So they asked me how much would I charge for 1 hour, 30 minutes of my time. And if you understand being more, your time is much more precious than anything else. So I told them $4,500. I didn't think about it, I just responded to the email. And guess what? They responded and agreed to pay me $4,500 for 1 hour, 30 minutes. Then I sat down and then I started reflecting. When we do this work that we do, I'm an activist and I advocate for people. I think we need to always recognize those other opportunities from the potentials and from, the resources that we have created for others. Sadly, I was unable to do that because I got COVID-19, and that's why you see I'm taking my face masks very serious. But I survived. In 2017, I was invited again by the US State Department, but this time to go to Southeast Asia. By the way, I have traveled across the length and breadth of this world. And at that time, I was meant to train young people in Southeast Asia. They call them emerging leaders. I'm sharing this story so you understand that you have to take risk and you have to understand that Okene or Kogi or Nigeria is really small for you to explore. Because sometimes we think that, being more is being that local champion. It's great to connect to your grassroots and be very local, but it's important to replicate what you do locally in a global scale. It took me 48 hours to get to Cambodia, where they brought over 300 young people from Southeast Asia. But that's not the story. Now the story is how we take our country. So I'm a Nigerian. I don't have a dual citizenship. I only have one passport, my Nigerian passport. To go to Cambodia, I have to go to Dubai or go to the US to apply for my visa. I had a US visa. I always get a multiple entry US visa. But to me, it didn't make sense to fly from Abuja, Nigeria to the US to get a visa. And honestly, it didn't make sense for me to also fly to Dubai to get a visa, fly back to Abuja, and then before I start traveling to Cambodia. So I told the US State Department, I would not go to US or Dubai. By the way, they were going to pay for everything, of course. I told them, if you can't find a way to get me and my Nigerian passport to Cambodia, I'm not going to Cambodia because of the value that I bring. And because I'm a proud Nigerian, they flew me from Abuja to Cambodia for 48 hours with my passport without a visa. And it took me less than 5 minutes to clear custom and immigration. So when you do this work that you do, understand that you bring value. And in life, in being more, it's about understanding your value and your place in that value chain. So for me, I'm so excited that now I'm replicating my colleagues using Follow the Money. And now we have over 8,000 people. So I can always say that when I transition out of the work that I do, we have, over 8,000 people who can take that forward. But also understanding that what is our most precious value is our name. So I'm always proud to say that Hamzat Lawal is a brand, even different from Follow the Money. And of course, some of you that follow me know that recently I just had babies. And now so now I'm taking billing people for my value very serious, because it means that I have to make 4 times the income that I'm making before. But I'm sharing this with you as young people to understand that as much as we do all this exciting work, understand your role in the value chain. And I always tell people, you cannot achieve anything alone. When I started 8 years ago, one of the first people that supported me was Inya Udi. At that time, I couldn't afford 30 minutes airtime. But Inya would give me 1 hour to come to Nigeria Info. But I'm sure she would not give me that airtime if I'm not bringing value that gets her audience educated and engaged. So when you do this and you want people to provide opportunities for you, always ask yourself, what are you bringing to the table? I tell people that I don't need a table because I come with my own table and chairs. Oh yes, because a lot of young people always say we need a seat on the table. We need to be on decision-making table. In 2014, I was invited to Poland for 3 weeks. 1 week, I was trained on how to engage the United Nations system and report what my country was doing in Poland, negotiating the US treaty. For that 2 weeks, I was dealing with African negotiators, people who are representing Africa on this table, asking them questions and just documenting what they're doing in various meetings. And this is a 24 hours round-the-clock meeting. Because of my engagement in Cambodia, and because, again, I was privileged and lucky to be the only young person from Africa that got a visa to go to Cambodia. So I was the face of Africa at that meeting. The last week of this event, they had a breakfast. They organized a breakfast meeting for heads of state and heads of government. And they needed 2 young speakers who would represent Global North and Global South. This might not make sense to you, but you need to understand international politics. Again, I work locally, but my work is actually a global phenomenon. So they needed 2 people from Global North and Global South. I represent Global South, which is underdeveloping. Global North is a developed country. So you talk about Europe, US, and Canada. So I got a pass to give a 2-minute speech in front of the likes of Barack Obama. My own president was going to be there, all the AU heads of state and governments, the world leaders. I was meant to speak for 2 minutes. And I was meant to connect what was happening in the region like Lake Chad, where Faika work, or what was happening, in the Southeast, where you have gully erosion, and how world leaders can contribute to reducing greenhouse gas emission. So now this is the story. Me speaking there was not the main story. The main story was the night before my public speaking in this closed door round table. 3 people from Scandinavia country. So when you say Scandinavia, they're the highly developed European Union countries. Walked up to me and told me that, Hamzat, you're a great guy, we like you, but we think you don't have what it takes to speak at this breakfast meeting. As an Ibira, there's something that runs in our blood. I know we easily get angry, but when you go for high-level meetings at the UN, you cannot raise your voice, no matter how angry you are. You would get disbanded, from this kind of meeting. So they walked up to me, 3 of them, 2 guys and 1 lady, and said, I should give them my pass. Because in the UN, they don't talk to you. You just swipe your pass. If the door open, that means you have access. If the doors are not open, that's when the security will come and say, please, can you excuse us? And they said, Hamza, please give us that pass. You don't have what it takes to speak at that meeting. Of course, I was very angry. My Ibira blood started boiling. But I kept calm because I knew the consequence of just blowing up. And then at that moment, in being more, I saw it as an opportunity to educate people who are privileged and from a developed country. And I took them through my journey as a young activist who have traveled to over 42 African countries at that time, and told them from one country to another how climate change was affecting young people and women and causing unemployment and the crisis we're facing. They shamefully left me. And at the end of what I told them, they believed that I have what it took to speak in front of world leaders. But because, again, I am who I am, I fight to the finish. I went back to my hostel and started drafting an email. I was going to write a petition against what they told me. Because if you understand international politics, they were trying to take over power from me. Because I was representing a constituent, not myself, not Nigeria, but Africa. While I was drafting that email, they sent a 3-page apology because they understood that the Hamza that they just spoke to would send a petition to the UN and they would get a 5-year ban from attending this kind of meeting. Oh, that is what it would take. And I was ready to fight because I had all the evidence. But with their 3-page apology, and of course, responding and telling them they were going to buy me lunch for the next 3 days and take me for coffee. Oh yes, I have my own demands, which they did, by the way. I'm sharing this with you because I don't accept less. And in being more, you'll be confronted with a lot of challenges. But always see those challenges as opportunities because they are bound, there are a lot of them. And when you do what you want to do after now, because we've heard from various amazing speakers, don't do it alone. Because when you work with people, you can conquer the world. I have understood the power of people and collective, and this is what has kept me going and seeking for more. I'm in my transition phase in my organization that I have found, because I'm not accepting the fact that God has sent me to the world just to run connected development and follow the money. I need to do something bigger. And that is why being more sort of answers to speaking to God, like Inya has said, your creator, in getting that vision in what is that more and the next stage. As I wrap up, I want to use this opportunity to support the young lady here. As a father, when you see children, you use them to pray for your own child. And a father who has 3 boys at the same time. When she was speaking, I said to myself, I pray for my children to be like this. Because this young woman has started a path that when we were her age, we couldn't do this. And in supporting her, I want to pre-order 3 books. So the book you're working on, I want to buy for my kids that are just 3 months, because I want the book to be part of the first book that they would read. And I'm buying 3 for 150,000. And because I have so many stories and I want to be a publisher in the future, I'm giving you 50,000 as a publisher to do whatever you like with the money. So I'm going to give you 200,000 before I leave this event, just to support, your innovation. In the next 2 seconds, I'll leave the stage. But as I wrap up, in being more is also helping change the narrative of Ibira or Anibira and Kogi at large. Politics decides everything. And as young people who are agitated, I would leave you with 2 questions. Are we truly serious? And are we truly ready? Thank you.